Hey everybody, and welcome back. So this video is kind of being made by request, but it's basically going to be the story of the Emmaselle 1. If you don't remember the Emmaselle 1, it's the vintage airplane that I had flown for 7 or 8 years, and I'll show you some pictures of it here. But the thing is that I've done quite a few videos that included the Emmaselle, but this is going to be the story of it. This is going to be a 6-part video series. You know, I'm doing a video series on the B-36 right now. I'm going to do one on the C-130, on the Emmaselle 2, which is the yellow airplane you see around the frame here, and the Emmaselle 1, which is the open structure airplane, which is this airplane here. So in this video, this is just an overview of the Emmaselle, okay? And that's all we're going to talk about, is kind of an overview of it. The way the video series is going to go is there's going to be a video on the design, the fuselage construction, the wing construction, the stab construction, and the power source, okay? And through there'll be some little parts about the covering of the airplane as we get toward the end. But the thing about the Emmaselle 1 is it was just a thought that came out of a couple of stars aligning, okay? But before we get too deep into this, I want to talk about my sponsor, RTL Fasteners. Go to rtlfasteners.com. If you need any of their bolts, nuts, screws, servo screws, any of that kick-ass hardware they have, and you use top secret code DA30, you'll get 30% off your orders if you spend more than $50. Okay, really fantastic company. I really recommend you go and just look at what they got. So this is the overview video about this, and it's not going to be a long video. And some of my videos go long because there's just so much. I mean, just on this airplane, I have over 4,000 pictures. Okay, so basically at that time, back around 2004, from 2003 to 2005, I was flying this Pitts, and it's a half-scale Pitts. It had a 3W150, 150cc engine in it, and it was a kick-ass airplane. And I was having a lot of fun flying it. One of my friends came by, and we were just sitting in my garage telling lies about how awesome of pilots we are. And he had one drawing from a Proctor Antic. And he said, you should make one of these really big. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, that's really interesting, because I had just been to Oshkosh, the big air show, and I'd seen some vintage airplanes. And I said, you know, dude, I was really thinking about building a big vintage looking airplane. So while my plane might have some similarities to an Antic, it also has similarities to all of the vintage airplanes that were built back in the day. So it's not like I blew up the Antic drawings. I've had a couple of people ask me if I did that, and I didn't. Actually, I didn't even keep the drawings. He just showed it to me, and it kind of got my juices going, thinking, you know, maybe I should take this chance and build this airplane. So what I did was, at the time, I was playing around with 3ds Max. It's a 3D software, and I drew my version of a vintage airplane. And it had a 192-inch wing, 125 inches long, which the Emmaselle actually ended up with a 197-inch wing, because I kept modifying the design a little bit. But the thing is I wanted the airplane to be built extremely cheap, because I didn't have a lot of money. I had a power plant, had a radio. I'm thinking about now building a 197-inch wingspan airplane. And doing it with balsa and all of that would have cost me just a ginormous amount of money. So at the time, I was working in my industry, and we had gotten this big hoist thing delivered to us, and it was in a crate that was about 2 feet wide, 16 feet long, and about 4.5 feet tall. And all the Luan that was in that crate was a lot higher quality than the stuff we see at the hardware store. So I brought that crate home, stuck it in the garage. The wife's like, what are you doing? I was like, this would make great wood for this big airplane I'm thinking about building. And all the bulkheads and ribs came out of that crate. So then I went to the hardware store and bought a whole bunch of 1x6s and 2x4s and started stripping my own quarter-by-quarter wood that was going to end up being stringers and stuff like that in the fuselage. So back in 2005-ish, when I bought all this wood, I didn't spend more than $70 to build this airframe. That doesn't include covering or glue. Just the raw wood cost me $70 for this airplane. So the wing originally had a really big under camber. I got nervous and got rid of that, because I know with under camber airplanes, the faster you go, the more the pitch changes, and I just didn't know if on a 197-inch wing airplane, that was going to be problematic. So this is what it kind of looked like. And yes, it does have some of the Proctor lines, but keep in mind my entire horizontal stab changed. That's not at all what it looked like when it was finished. I also wanted to put it next to a person to see how big this thing would be in scale. Now, if you notice, it still has in it a 3W150 gas engine drawn into it. And when I ended up testing that at idle, it shook the plane so much, I was just afraid something would shake loose. And this was going to be an over 55-pound airplane. And back then, I had to have it inspected. It's not like today where the LMA1 and LMA2 exist, where I could do the self-inspection if it's under 77 pounds. So this was going to have to be inspected and all that stuff. So I just got nervous with that gas engine and put the airplane in my attic. And it sat there for 3 years. And then electric engines got big enough, and I put that in it. So basically, the Emmaselle 1 ended up flying for 8 years and has 1,350 flights on it. If you've ever been to CEF back in the day, you saw me flying this all the time. I flew it just like any other plane I had. And it was a pretty easy plane to fly. It did not have an abundance of power. It flew, but you had to know how to fly an airplane. You also had to know how to use rudder on this airplane. But this is just an overview video, everybody. I just wanted to explain that there's going to be a video series, and I'm going to dive into the design. Some of these videos might go a little bit long because there really is 4,000 pictures. I'm not going to do all of them. But the story of this airplane is really a cool story. Now, the name Emmaselle came from, originally I called it the 1919 vintage airplane because I wanted it to be, what if I built an EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association type airplane, like an Oshkosh airplane, back in 1919. If it was my design, what would it look like? And this is what it was going to be. And the thing about that is that I had been on RC groups before. RC groups got really crazy. And a friend from overseas said, well, there was this Emmaselle lady that broke all these records. I know your daughter's name is Emma. Why don't you call it the Emmaselle? And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And that's the reason it's called the Emmaselle. And like I said, I've got a ton of flights on the plane, and it's awesome. So that's it for this video. I'll get the other ones started here the next week or so. And there are updates on the B-36. The C-130 videos, I've started the formatting, and same thing with the Emmaselle 2. So rock on, everybody. Have a great day, and be safe, and take a kid flying. See you next time. Bye.